negative? Nothing. We're not going to have any negatives in this problem because we are in quadrant 1. So drop your perpendicular straight down, butterfly bow tie. Here's your angle theta. How long's this? 4. And this is 5. That's the 0.45, so over 4 up 5. Now we're going to do our Pythagorean theorem, so that'll be 16 and 25. Did you get root 41? No negatives to worry about. So here we go. Sine. 5 over root 41. Cosine. 4 over root 41. Tangent. 5 over 4. Good. And now we'll do the flips. So root 41 over 5 is my cosecant. Root 41 over 4 is my secant. And my cotangent is 4/5. Now I'll go back and rationalize anything. Remember, the only things that need rationalized are the ones that have radicals in the bottom, right? So that's going to be 5 root 41 over 41 and 4 root 41 over 41. Everybody feel okay about that? Because now we're going to do the same thing. We're now on number 2. This is 4.3, section 4.3, number 2. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing, only all they're giving you is a point. Well, isn't that what you were given in these problems? Weren't you given a point? The difference is they plotted it for you. Now you're just plotting it on your own. So this is exactly the same kind of problem. You're going to plot the point 2, -2. Wouldn't it look like that, kids? Wouldn't we? Here's the origin. Wouldn't we go right 2 and down 2 to plot that point? So now we're going to figure out our hypotenuse. So that's going to be 4 plus 4. So this is going to be the square root of 8, which is 2 root 2. Is that all right with everybody? So here we go. What's our sine? Here's theta. Our sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So -2 over 2 root 2. Now, I don't think this has happened to us before. Everybody get this set up right here? Okay. Now, you see a 2 here and a 2 here? So we want to cancel those out. So now we have -1 over root 2. Is that all right with everybody? And then we'll rationalize it and we'll end up with -root 2 over 2. Do you follow that simplification? How about cosine? It's going to be the same thing, only it will be positive. Cosine is adjacent, so it's going to be 2 over 2 root 2, which is 1 over root 2, because those cancel, which is root 2 over 2. What's the tangent going to be? -2 over 2, and just go ahead and write that as -1. Now we'll do our reciprocals. Now when I do my reciprocals, I'm going to flip it right here, kids. You see where I'm pointing? This isn't the answer, but that's where I'm going to flip. Because what happens if I flip this one? I have a radical in the bottom, which I don't want, so I'm going to flip this one, and that's just going to be -√2/1. And what's the secant going to be? +√2/1. And what's the tangent going to be? Or cotangent, I mean, cotangent. -1, sure. When I flip that, don't I get the same thing? So here are your final answers. In green are the final answers. All right, so now we got same thing, only this time our point is -1/4. Which quadrant am I going to draw my triangle for -1/4? Quadrant 2. Over -1 up 4. That's simple x and y, don't be confused. X, y. What's my hypotenuse? √17. Very good. Remember when you square the negatives, they're gone. So it's 1 + 16, so it's √17. Perfect. All right, sine. Tessa, what's a sine? Can't hear you, what? Okay, so what would it be in terms of numbers in this problem? Perfect, 4/√17, which means the cosecant is √17/4. Brock, what's cosine?
Just be 1 √17/17.
So -1/√17, which you rationalized to get -√17/17, that's right. And the secant then is just going to be -√17/1. And Emmett, what's the tangent?
The tangent is going to be -1/17.
No. Here's theta.
Oh.
This is opposite, and this is adjacent. Or you can think about it as y/x. That's another definition you have. So y/x would be 4/-1, or -4. And the cotangent then is -1/4. I think I'm good, except I have to rationalize this one. And then I think we're all done. Does anyone have a question about one of those? We okay? Because now we're going to see something a little bit weird. Our next point is 0, -2. So let's plot that point, and now you tell me what's different about this. Because this is definitely different than anything we've looked at so far. What's different about it, Brent? It's on an axis. It's what we call a quadrantal angle. It's actually on an axis. Now, what makes that any different? Well, kids, remember, the only triangles you can draw are butterfly bow ties. Can you draw a butterfly bow tie triangle with that angle? No. So this is where your alternative definitions are necessary. The x over r, y over r definitions. Because there's no triangle, so you can't talk about opposite and hypotenuse because you don't have a triangle. Okay? So x and y are easy. X is 0 and y is -2. That's given. R is the radius of the circle that would be drawn through that point. So if you think about a circle being drawn through that point, R is the radius of that circle. What is the radius of that circle? If it's going through that point right there, what's the radius of the circle? Well, 2. The radius is always positive. The radius is always a positive number. The radius acts like the hypotenuse. If I drew a circle here through this point, see how the radius is the same as the hypotenuse? It is always positive. The radius is always positive. So you now have a situation where you know x is 0, y is -2, and r is 2. That was given. And then obviously, if the circle is going to go through that point, the radius has to be 2. All right, so here we go. Now we need to use our other definitions. What sign? Y over r. So y over r would be -2 over 2, which is -1. Right? What's cosine? X over r. So it'd be 0 over 2, which is 0. What's tangent? Y over x, which would be, oh Lord, -2 over 0. Mamuna's shaking her head. That is undefined. There is no tangent for that angle. All right, now what are the reciprocals? Well, if I flip this one over, aren't I going to get -1 again?
Yeah.
What's going to happen when I flip this one over? Undefined. That's exactly right. You're going to get undefined. And what happens when I flip this one over?
0.
I get 0, yeah. Remember, 0 on top is 0. A 0 on the bottom is undefined. So there's one more of those. Let's see if we can get it done. 3, 0. So our point is 3, 0. Where is that? Where's 3, 0? X-axis. It's right here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and draw my circle around. What's my x value? 3. What's my y value? And what's my r value? 3. Remember, r is always positive. No matter what, r will be a positive number. Is that okay with everybody? X and y are given. You can't have a question about that. 3, 0. But the radius of the circle would also have to be 3. All right, so sine y over r, that will be 0 over 3, which is 0. Cosine x over r, 3 over 3, which is 1. Tangent y over x, which is 0. Now we need all the reciprocals. So what's going to happen here? When I flip this over, I'm going to get undefined. When I flip this one over, I still get 1. And when I flip this one over, I get undefined. So, back in the beginning, you were like, this is forward, why do I have to remember X over R and all that? Now you know. You gotta know those definitions when you can't make a triangle.